Welcome to another daily digital download. Woo! Today we have a good one. Well, you might think, obviously, when it comes to crypto stuff, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, no? Let me just add the old link to the TL here. Today's a good one. We're going to be reviewing the Clarity Act. The most recent wording that came out last night. It dropped at midnight on EST, Eastern Time. We'll also be delving into Starknet's launch of Stark Bitcoin, RIP to Ordinals, the EF's new leads for the upcoming Glamsterdam update, and Binance saying that they've been using AI to thwart bad actors. All that coming up on today's Daily Digital Download. For all of those of you who are here right now, this is for you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Let's just jump right into it because this one's going to be packed, and I apologize for some boring stuff that we're going to get into. But last night at around midnight, Senate Banking Committee dropped its proposed wording for the Clarity Act, which I like this article. Part of the Clarity Act would clarify that non-custodial developers are not money transmitters. So Roman Storm, who's in trouble with the law right now for his role in developing Tornado Cash, that wouldn't have happened if Clarity Act was enacted. The new text is garnering support from the crypto industry as a whole, as well as Coinbase, which is important because Coinbase is the whole reason why we're delayed and we don't have a Clarity Act being talked about on Senate floor right now. But large bank trade groups still are not happy. They're still not happy that the language goes far enough. And look, this is a group of people that we were never going to satisfy, because they don't want crypto in their lives other than the ways that they can make money off of it. They don't want native yield stablecoins being held on their books by their clients because they can't earn money off of fractional reserve lending. They can't keep the majority of the money that's made off of what they lend out that you lend to them. This is why they don't like stablecoins with native yield, and why they're fighting, because they don't want Coinbase, they don't want Kraken, they don't want Gemini to be able to capture the users that the banks have, because crypto offers better crypto offers better inherent yield on stablecoins. And so this is what the big fight has been about. And the banks are using wording to say that they're afraid of flight deposit risk. Let me take a quick sip of coffee. Which is them saying they're afraid that people won't be depositing their money onto banking platforms anymore. Well, the free market says that if you can't provide a better service and a competitor can, then people will want to go to that service, that the better service the competitor can offer. So I'll get off my high horse. Let's just wrap up this first little article with acknowledging that there are ethics concerns that Democrats feel the Clarity Act hasn't addressed yet. Largely that federal officials, including the President of the United States, should not be allowed to personally benefit from digital assets. Don't even get me started on World Liberty Finance. Additionally, the bill includes the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, which would clarify that non-custodial developers are not money transmitters. On Monday night, the DeFi Education Fund said that they're reviewing the bill, but they said, quote, "We are encouraged by the direction of recent negotiations and note that the most important provisions for developers and infrastructure providers, the BRCA, which is once again the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, and protections under the Exchange Act are in this bill." All right. So if you go take a peek at congress.gov and you look for the bill, HR 3633, you're going to see just a ton of stuff. Where's the most recent version? And it's quite frustrating to read through because there's a lot. So what I did is I prompted Claude, and the most important things that the bill acknowledges, we're just going to go through really quickly. The single most important thing is that the bill will end regulatory limbo that drove builders offshore during the previous administration. Additionally, another large kind of clarified act in the Clarity Act, is that a token meets a digital commodity definition and it no longer is going to be a security, which was what Gary Gensler was arguing for, that every token except for Bitcoin and Ethereum are securities. For builders, this resolves the question that has paralyzed the US crypto industry since 2018, since I've been working in this space full time. You now know which agency you need to answer to and under which framework. So how does a token get out of securities law? Well, a digital commodity issuer, related person, affiliated person, or decentralized governance system can certify to the SEC that the blockchain is mature. For builders, this is a path that allows them to launch a token under an exempt offering, build their network towards decentralization, then certify its maturity, and afterwards, the token will operate as a commodity. This also opens up opportunities for fundraising, ICOs, token launches, etc. here in the US. For builders, the compliant US capital formation path has been missing. You can raise, distribute tokens, and grow the network without indefinite securities classification, provided you keep your disclosure obligations and progress towards decentralization. We'll get into that in a minute. For investors, this disclosure regime is what carries protection. You get source code, audit status, governance structure, distribution plan, insider holdings, and ongoing reporting. This is what investors get under Reg A+, which is one of the securities registration mechanisms for a stock here in the US. However, Clarity Act adapts this to tokens. Another interesting portion of the bill is that insider sales will be made much more difficult. I mean, anybody who's been in blockchain and crypto for more than 10 days has seen that insiders get overwhelmingly large allocations of their tokens. And there's a lot of pumping and dumping that goes on in the market. So, Section 204 establishes lockup periods and sales volume limitations to people related to or affiliated with a project. Section 411 addresses blockchain controlled persons specifically. What this means for an investor is you get visibility into insider holdings, lockups, volume limits, and you get to notice when a person sells. For builders, the rules are knowable and uniform. Everyone operates under the same insider sales discipline, rather than relying on legal teams to invent ad hoc lockup structures to avoid enforcement risk. Exchanges must also segregate customer funds, provide risk disclosures to retail customers, designate a chief compliance officer, hold funds in a qualified digital asset custodian, and join a registered futures association if they hold customer funds. These rules are specifically put into place because of FTX. No digital commodity exchange or affiliate can act as a counterparty to any transaction on the exchange except in limited circumstances. This basically makes it so the exchange can't trade against its customers. This is good. This is what we want. There are some DeFi carve-outs that are included in the bill, including DeFi activities that are related to the operation and maintenance of a blockchain network from SEC regulation. And Section 409 does the same thing for CFTC. So, what are the exempted activities for a DeFi service provider to not have to register? validating or providing incidental services, publishing and updating software, developing wallets for blockchain networks, providing user interfaces for blockchain networks, and or developing and publishing a blockchain system. For builders, this is the answer to the Tornado Cash problem. Whether writing open source code is a regulated activity, if you're not in control of customer assets and you're publishing software, running a validator, building a wallet, or hosting a front end, you are not a regulated intermediary. Again, this is wording that would have saved Roman Storm, the developer of Tornado Cash, headaches, tons and tons of headaches, plus years that he's looking down the pipeline of staying in prison. All because the government wanted to make an example of him. All right. What this bill does not do, it does not address further stablecoin actions, which there will need to be, it does. Well, this is a section I need to touch up on more, so we're just gonna ignore the stablecoin references. The bill defines digital commodities to exclude securities, derivatives, and stablecoins. Tokenized stocks remain securities, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act is included as part of the same legislation package that will not allow the Federal Reserve to create a CBDC, which is a government-controlled central bank digital currency. There's a lot of dystopian fear that comes with the CBDC. Largely, why should a government be able to see exactly single thing I spend on, and also be able to limit my ability to have purchasing power? So that is just my basic overview, my prompt for Claude over the bill. Now, the upcoming vote on the crypto market structure bill will take place on May 14th, on Thursday. This is a long-awaited vote and markup that's been pushed back since January. And there's still something to be very cautious over. There's wording about the stablecoin yield that banks don't like, and Democrats don't like the lack of ethics restrictions. So let's see. TD Cowen's Washington Research Group, the managing director, Jarrett Seiberg, said, "This is a smart political move as time is running short, as we believe the full Senate must vote before the August recess for the bill to be enacted this year. We are up against a time crunch, folks." Advancing the bill out of Senate banking would allow it to be combined with the Senate Ag Committee version of the legislation, and then Senate leaders will be able to begin negotiations with Democrats and Republicans to determine what changes are needed for the combined package to secure the 60 votes that are necessary to pass the bill in Senate, move it to House, and then put it on President Trump's desk. There is still some hang-ups here. Largely because there's wording that the Democrats don't like, or lack of wording, about stopping the president's family from being able to make money on crypto while he's in office. And then, if there's staunch enough wording that's put into the bill, will the president sign a bill that targets his family's crypto businesses and interests? This is a prisoner's dilemma that we're going to have to watch play out in real time. But ultimately, there are growing concerns that if the Democrats retake the House after the November midterm elections, Trump-linked crypto businesses could face investigations. The Clarity Act might not be able to get put to the floor for vote. It might not succeed if it is put to the floor for vote. And then lastly, one thing I wanted to touch on, and this one just made me roll my eyes so hard. Labor unions are opposing the Senate crypto bill. What does this have to do? What does crypto have to do with a labor union? Very little, in my personal opinion. This to me seems as like a real politics sort of deal, or maybe that's not the right word. This seems like as a political motivation, that there's definitely some shenanigans going on and some strings being pulled to bring in this group to be loud and anti-crypto. According to the CNBC, SEIU, AFT, NEA, and AFS-CME, the bill jeopardizes the stability of workers' retirement plans, including public pensions. while adding that it could introduce significant volatility into retirement savings accounts. Don't put crypto in your retirement savings account then, if you're worried about it. This is a free market. Just because something exists doesn't mean you have to use it. Just because something exists doesn't mean you have to support it. This is absolutely ridiculous. Further, when I worked for the government, the SEIU was my labor union, and we were not getting raises. We were losing out to inflation. Like, we weren't getting cost of inflation raises. When I was an urban planner, we were among the lowest paid planners in the Bay Area. Literally, you could not find a transportation planner that got paid worse than me because of our union labor. They just didn't negotiate for us. And on top of that, the 4 top officials during my tenure, when I was working in the Bay Area as a transportation planner for the state highway department, they raised their salaries by 2x during the 3 years I was there. The top 4 officials at SEIU. So I watched firsthand how inept they were, and also borderline fraudulent activities, or at the very least, showing us one hand and doing something with the other. Anyways, again, if you as an entity think that a crypto asset is too volatile to include into your pension retirement plan, then don't fucking put it in there. Not that hard. Further, backtesting Bitcoin at least, it probably would have outperformed anything else that's sitting in their pension plan. Anyways, I'm going to get off my high horse now. That's enough about the Clarity Act today. Markup comes on Thursday. So I'm sure over the next week or so, we'll have plenty more to talk about. Really quickly, the last few pieces of news I want to touch on. Starknet has launched strkBitcoin to provide ZK-powered shielded Bitcoin to its L2 network. Starknet is an Ethereum L2 developed by Starkware, and they've launched a new Bitcoin-based asset designed to enable private balances and confidential transfers while maintaining full composability across DeFi applications. The token's using Starknet's ZK cryptography to provide a compliance-ready shielding mechanism. What it will do is enable re-anonymization to bridge back to fresh, unlinked Bitcoin addresses that can be audited should a government ask for that. It's a technical wrapper for Bitcoin designed to bridge Bitcoin into a shielded environment on Starknet, which allows users and institutions to protect their balances and transaction history while still retaining compliance with audits, tax reporting, and legal requirements. This kind of backdoor will allow entities to view keys that third-party compliance reviewers can use to disclose limited data to tax authorities, auditors, or other regulatory bodies upon lawful request. Such compliant transactions unlock a range of use cases that were previously restricted restricted entities from interacting with Bitcoin because A, they couldn't shield their transactions, or B, if the transactions were shielded, they couldn't provide an auditable trail. So this is an interesting trend that I'm starting to watch emerge in the cypherpunk overlap of blockchain networks and adoption by TradFi. If you look at something like Providiums, which was built by ZK Sync, these enable TradFi institutions to use more permissioned networks, or networks that are still decentralized, but they're more on the permission side, by allowing the shielding of transactions. But if a government needs to view those transactions, then Providium or strkBTC can provide a backdoor channel to decrypt those transactions and share them. Is this the cypherpunk dream? No. Is it funny that banks and TradFi are using more cypherpunk ideology and philosophy than a lot of folks on CT Absolutely. strkBTC's roadmap includes research into quantum-resistant cryptography, integration into BitVM, and a longer-term goal of a fully trustless bridge enabled by a potential OpCat soft fork allowing Bitcoin to natively verify Starknet proofs. In other Bitcoin news, Bitcoin Ordinals Explorer Ord.io is shutting down alongside the trading app Zap. Leonidas King was the creator of Ord.io, and he said that basically the team has ran out of money and doesn't see a path forward. Zap, their self-custodial app developed by the same entity that allowed users to sign up, buy, and trade Bitcoin meme coins in under 30 seconds, is also shutting down due to failing to attract enough traction. For those of you who don't remember, Bitcoin Ordinals dropped in 2023. It was a protocol that made it possible to inscribe arbitrary data like images, text, or code onto sats, onto individual sats, which is the smallest unit of a Bitcoin. This allowed Bitcoin to create an NFT ecosystem directly on the Bitcoin blockchain, which sparked a lot of controversy from the small block folks who don't believe that Bitcoin should be used for anything other than sending and receiving Bitcoin. But it also, at the same time, brought a lot of developer energy and new blood to Bitcoin during a time, and frankly, it still is like this, when Bitcoin was seen as slow, as non-adaptive, as not a fun, unique, interesting place to build. But all that activity has overwhelmingly died down since 2023. It was kind of a peak when Ordinals launched, when Runes launched, and then since then, we just haven't seen those highs be revisited in the 2.5 years since Ordinals became a thing. Moving on to our last two pieces of news, the EF has named 3 new co-leads to its major protocol cluster. They're doing this because Barnabé Monat and Tim Baiko have planned to depart the organization, and Alex Stokes is going on sabbatical. These are OG leaders in EF that were responsible for helping steward and guide the ecosystem to upgrading Ethereum. However, even though they're gone, the new researchers have contributed to cross-team and cross-cluster efforts. This is all kind of highlighting that the EF has been going through a period of transformation. In February of 2025, they moved to a new co-executive director model. And then a year later, one of the co-executive directors, Tomasz Stanchek, left. And since Tomasz left, others have left as well. I'm not sure if this says anything good or bad about the Ethereum Foundation. I will hold my tongue. But it does show that this is an organization in flux, and we'll just leave it at that. I don't know if it's necessarily good or bad. Depending on what side of the spectrum you sit on, you could make an argument for either case. February of 2025, ETH token holders were really happy about the shakeup because the new EF leadership started focusing on driving value and adoption into the Ethereum ecosystem. When Tomasz left earlier this year, a new sort of mandate circulated through the Ethereum Foundation where they were going to double down on crops, which is cypherpunk ideology, more or less. There's an acronym for crops. It's eluding me at the moment. But it was kind of this like pendulum shift back to, we're not going to focus on purely capitalistic motivations. We're here for philosophical idealism. And that is that Ethereum should be a network that everybody can access and nobody can shut down, along with other intricacies in the crops blog post. So now the new team, the EF's protocol team, formerly Protocol R&D, is the core group at the EF responsible for designing, researching, developing, and coordinating Ethereum's base protocol, scaling L2 data blobs, and improving UX. And so that's what's next. This is what this new group of 3 is going to be spearheading. The Glamsterdam update. The EF said last year that they wanted to do 2 major updates a year. And Glamsterdam is the next one that's due later this year, which will increase the Ethereum gas limit floor to 200 million and introduce enshrined proposer builder separation, or EPBS. So I'm sure we'll cover more of this in the future as more and more information comes out. But hopefully we see the EF kind of solidify and let the dust settle. And hopefully we just get no news from them moving forward. Because frankly, after Tomasz left earlier this year, a lot of the news around the EF has been negative, largely because they've been doubling down on their philosophical and ideological stances. And, you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the 2 blockchain networks that, to me, are just not going to die. And so you have to look at how the EF charges its growth with a different lens than a purely capitalistic one, because there's so much more to the value and power of blockchain networks and ecosystems than the price of a token. And this is the balance we have to walk in blockchain and crypto. A lot of us are token holders, and we have this emotional attachment to the price of the token. But really, the value of blockchain isn't that the token number goes up or down. It's all the positive externalities that are associated with peer-to-peer, open source, immutable, permissionless, borderless, governmentless networks that everybody can participate in. All right, lastly, as it is security season and we're seeing AI creep further and further into hacks, Binance has claimed that it stopped 1.98. Well, in Q1 of 2026, Binance claims to have safeguarded $1.98 billion in funds protected from 22.9 million scam and phishing attempts. They claim its AI security system has collectively helped save millions of users $10.5 billion in potential losses from scams between Q1 and Q2 of 2025 alone. In Q1 2026, they said that they saved us from $1.98 billion in those scam and phishing attempts. They also have claimed to help recover $12.8 million worth of funds from 48,000 cases. JP Morgan also estimated that last year, its AI security systems helped prevent an estimated $1.5 billion in fraud losses. Cool. We're starting to see AI used to not only... So yes, we're seeing AI be used to increase the attack vectors that malicious actors have, but now we're also starting to see it being used defensively. However, I want to end by saying Binance Research previously estimated that AI is currently 2x better at exploitation than at detection, and that AI-enabled scams are 4.5x more profitable than traditional ones. So we're still fighting an uphill battle, but it's nice to see that there is a way to use these tools that have been used against us to also combat these bad actors. So, folks, with all that said, I know that I threw a lot at you today, and not all of it was completely sexy. I mean, who wants to talk about policy and regulations and laws? Certainly not a cryptocurrency-oriented audience, but this is a big deal because the Clarity Act is going to provide a clear path for how we can operate here in the U.S. And once we have this bill enacted, put into law, it'll just be one less thing for us to have to worry about from a government perspective. One less, I don't want to call it an enemy to face, but one less portion of our back that we have to cover, for better or worse. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's daily digital download, please, 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 please subscribe to our weekly newsletter at thesmarteconomist.beehive.com. And for all of those of you who are here right now or listen to this or are listening to this in the future, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, have a beautiful and safe and happy Tuesday. And yeah, folks, let's just keep grinding. Bear markets are for building. And if you're here right now and you're building your knowledge and you're accumulating, then I think we're all going to have a happy time in the future. All right, I'll catch